What's up? Sarah here, and welcome to the second episode of Wednesday's Wisdom. And as I shared with you last week, Wednesday Wisdom is like a platform that I've incorporated in my YouTube videos to help you, just give you a dose of wisdom each week. Step away from my normal schedule of doing videos. Maybe there's going to be a different arrays of topics that I talk about. Some could be a book that I've read, or conversations that I've had, or a show that I've seen, whatever the case may be, whatever my heart feels like sharing with you, or whatever you say that you want to hear about, I will incorporate this in my Wednesday's Wisdom segment. So this week, I want to talk about one of my favorite books. It's called The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. And this book was featured a couple of months ago, actually, on the Oprah's Soul Sunday, which is one of my favorite shows, really one of my favorite shows on television. I don't watch TV a lot, but I do make exception for her channel. I watch Iyanla Vanzant or anything that's really empowering, because in the past I used to watch a lot of TV. However, you know, it's just like fear. I would sometimes be afraid or just get so consumed by what's happening in the world. And that's not to say what's happening in the world is not important. However, it can keep you stuck, keep you in a very narrow or shallow paradigm where you're so focused on everybody else and not focused on building what you need to build within yourself. So in this book, The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, Don Ruiz is a medical doctor by training. He's from Mexico. And what he came to the realization about is that while he was treating his patients for, you know, what appeared to be physical ailments, what he found out was that a lot of it wasn't really physical. The physical was the effect, but the underlying cause was a psychological issues going on. So he somewhat abandoned his medical profession to pursue a deep, intense study of psychology. Not to mention, he comes from a background of, you know, spiritual teachers. His mom, grandfather, grandfather, I believe, was a shaman. So alongside his deep studying of psychology, coupled with that spiritual and shaman background, it came into this little book. So he created this little book based on all the wisdom he's gathered from all those different places. So basically, what Don Miguel Ruiz says is that all of us have agreements that we've made. So the agreements may have not been conscious agreements that we signed on a dotted line, but it's something that we assume unconsciously from our parents as when we were children. I mean, one example is religion. When you ask a lot of people, well, why do you study this religion? Or why do you have a belief in this religion? Why do you follow this religion? A lot of them cannot tell you because it wasn't a conscious choice that they made. It was something that was handed to them on a platter by their parents, and they just took the baton and kept running. And then they hand it to their children, and it goes on and on. So they never really questioned why they, you know, follow a certain religion or certain, belief system or whatever. They just get it from their parents. So these agreements, and it's not just your parents, it's anyone who was influential in your life. It was the television, people around you, school professionals, etc. So we make these we have these unconscious agreements, and throughout the course of our lives, these agreements are playing out in our life in limited belief, us being stuck in different aspects of our lives, us working in jobs that we, you know, our soul is calling for us to change, but we still have a deep hold onto it, or a firm hold onto it. So this book, he talks about 4 different agreements that if you adopt and start to incorporate them in your daily life, it can have a profound, I'm telling you, a profound impact on your quality of life. So it's just 4 agreements, but you know, this book is only what, 130, 140 pages, 138 to be exact pages. But don't let the smallness or the littleness of this book fool you. It is packed with wisdom. And so the first agreement is be impeccable with your words. And basically what he means by this is that we need to have intention. We need to have a firm intention behind what we're saying, because our words create our lives. Our words and our thoughts create our lives. So remember, everything is created twice. It's first in a thought, and then it's in reality. So it starts with a thought, our words, and then it comes out on the picture of our life. It plays out on the screen of our life. So we need to be impeccable. And this is something that I struggle for the great portion of my life. You know, I would say stuff to people and don't care about it. Don't care how I hurt people. And it's not even about hurting people, because whatever words you say, if you call somebody stupid or ugly or lazy or whatever, those words are being said about yourself. So whatever poison you're emitting to people, like I did for so long, would curse people out and don't really care, thinking that I was impacting them, but in actuality it was impacting me, because whatever you push out, it always comes back to you. So be very deliberate in the words that we want to say. Be intentional in the words that we want to say, because our words have the ability to create hate, to create anger, to create jealousy, to create envy. If that's what you want to create, then continue on that path. But if you want to create an empowering life, then we need to select words that are empowering, words of love, words of encouragement. If you're going to say something that will break someone's spirit, which in actuality it breaks you down, because you get a dose of that poison that you're trying to emit outward. If you're going to do that, then don't say anything at all. Again, our words are powerful and are creative. The second one is don't take anything personal. And for me, again, I struggle with this a lot. You know, when someone says, for me, one thing that I've struggled with is being smaller, being what people would say skinny, and you know, it really affected my self-esteem, because people would constantly see me and remind me, oh, you're so skinny, whatever. And then inside of me, my inside was like tearing up for so long. And at the end of the day, it wasn't really what they were saying. It's because I had a bruised self-esteem, a blemished self-esteem within me. Because if someone came up to me and said, look, you're fat, I would be like, what's going on with you? Are you taking some crack or something? You know, that doesn't matter to me, because it's not true. But because my self-image stated that, oh, I'm skinny, and I want to be different. I want to be normal size. I don't want people telling me these things. So just don't take things personally, because it's really not about you. Whatever judgment people make about you, it's really not about you. It's about them. You know, it's about their perception, their beliefs. It's what they hold. They're operating off of their belief system. So it's really not about you. And if we get so consumed with their words and then we start creating negativity in our life. That poison gets to us. Then it becomes our issue. The third agreement is not to make assumptions. This is another thing that I struggled with. So this book was made especially for me. It should have said dedicated to Sarah Johnson. So do not make any assumptions. I remember a couple months, well, maybe more than a couple months ago, we had put our son in a daycare after he had been home with a caregiver for a very long time. So that transition to a daycare was very hard for him. He wasn't used to being with other kids, wasn't used to being away from the family. So one day I went to drop him off, and the associate who was on duty at that time, he was, crying and just really emotional at the time. So I wanted her, my vision was for her, or wishes was for her to hold him and, really kind of soothe him while I left. So when I went to give our son to her, she was like, "Oh no, he has to stand up." And I was like, So I put him down, and I stayed with him for a while. But then when I left and I was on my way to work. I was like, well, why would she do something like that? And all these thoughts started going in my mind. I'm paying all this money. What the hell is she doing? That's not how you treat a kid. And blah, blah, blah. It just went on. I started creating this whole drama in my mind without really knowing any facts. Needless to say, a few days later, I was at the daycare, and I overheard a conversation between two ladies to say, so-and-so, which was the lady who was assisting my kid that day, she's pregnant. And I was like, wow, it sat with me for a while. I was like, I just made this assumption, got all angry inside, affecting my health, having, negative energy flowing through my body, but for nothing, because I made an assumption. The thing is, I know you've heard the little saying that says, when you assume, you make an ass out of yourself. And that's what I did. I created all this emotion, self-induced emotion, negative emotion on myself without, what I should have done was ask questions. So instead of making the assumption, we need to ask questions, and then we get clarity behind. And I would save myself a lot of stress had I asked, well, why, or just politely ask the question to get more insight into why she wasn't able to pick him up. The last agreement is always do your best. So the prior three agreements that I've mentioned, it deals with more the imagination, the internal. But the action, doing your best is more outward. It's the action that we put into it. So doing the best is going to be very dynamic, because if you're sick, doing the best may be, a little something at that time. Well, as opposed to you being fully healthy, maybe you can do your best at a different level. So in any given moment, just do your best and don't beat yourself up and eliminate all that guilt. Forget all of that, because that only hurts you. Just make sure that you are doing your best, because that's all we can do, is to give our best. But our best is going to fluctuate depending on what's going on with us, depending on the environment. So it's not a fixed point. Our best is going to oscillate, basically. So again, if you don't have this book, go to Amazon, get it, go to your local bookstore. This is, and you have 4 agreements. You don't want to just rush through the book. Take the time, maybe work on 1 agreement per month, just work on, or every 2 months, work on 1 agreement for 2 months and let it really saturate in your mind. And then you do the practice and you evaluate yourself every day. How did I do? Well, I have the opportunity to do better tomorrow. So, because when we go within, that's where the magic happens. It's going within, being honest with ourselves, being truthful with ourselves, and exploring our thoughts, exploring our action, and just doing the best that we can do. So I'm happy that I was able to share this message with you today. I'm pretty sure if you get this book is a life transformational tool that you should have within your tool set. So there you have it. This is Wednesday's Wisdom. I'm glad that you've joined me. If you like this message that I delivered today, please subscribe to my channel, number one, if you're on YouTube. Number two, leave me a comment. I love the dialogue, and I promise I respond to all comments on my site or on my blog. So you have a wonderful day, and tune in next week for Wednesday's Wisdom. Have a wonderful day. Be blessed.